The most powerful force on earth is a human soul on fire. You have a deep ache in your soul for something more, to come alive, to let your passion pour from you like an endless well. When your passion comes alive, the magnificence buried deep inside of you is unleashed. Gifts and talents you never realized surface as your life unfolds like poetry. You can do hard things. I can show you how. This is Thrive Yoga Fit Transformational Coaching, where I teach you how to heal yourself from the inside out. Hey everyone, welcome back to Thrive Yoga Fit Transformational Coaching. This is Erin. So today's podcast, and actually the next 12, I'm going to be going over each of the topics that I cover in my coaching course. My idea with this is that I can help the most people possible, and you can get a sampling of exactly what I teach in my course. So I hope that you enjoy these next 12 podcasts because they're really for you. My idea with creating these tools was that, there's only one of me, and these are the tools that I use with myself and with my clients. So if I can record it, if I can get it on video, if I can find a way to share it with people, then they can use these tools to find greater peace in their lives, solve deep mysteries within themselves, and connect to themselves and their community. So I hope that you enjoy, and let me know if you have any feedback. You can email me, Erin at erincoach.com, and enjoy. Hey everyone, welcome back to Thrive Yoga Fit Transformational Coaching. This is Erin. So I want to continue the series that I started, and then I got Tim to agree to an interview, so it was a little interrupted, but we'll let it slide for Mr. Goyech. But I wanted to continue with the How to Coach Yourself series, and today I'm going to be talking about healing inner child. And isn't it uncanny that I am having a workshop this Sunday at the studio? I have a few more spots for healing inner child. I do this workshop at least once a year. This year is once just because I was busy. I had a lot going on. So it is Sunday from 3 to 4:30. And then we have a sound bath from 5 to 6:30 with my friend Tony. I recommend taking both if you are a local, and if you're not, fly your ass down to Florida. Get down here. No, but seriously, you should. Florida's awesome. I wanted to continue with how to coach yourself, and I'm going to get to that. But I want to read something that's really special that one of my clients from India sent to me a while ago, and I had it printed out, and I have it on my desk. And when I sat down to record this for you, it just really popped out to me. And there's usually a reason why the universe kind of pop. So maybe somebody needs to hear this. Either way, it's beautiful. So if you wouldn't mind me taking up maybe about 4 or 5 minutes of your time on this podcast, I think it's worth your while. So this is a symbolic representation of Ganesha. As Shiva represents the first soul to realize God himself, Ganesh represents that same first soul. When he returned into creation as an avatar, Ganesh is none other than the Ancient One, Adi Purush. He returned after being beheaded. Losing his individual finite mind, he gained universal, infinite mind. Ganesh became the son of the father, Shiva, and thus became the father of all Sadgurus, as Shiva became the father of all Shiva Atmas. Ganesh, because of his nischif and curiosity, seeing his mother naked, which was forbidden, the same as the fruit in the Garden of Eden, finally undergoes annihilation of the limited mind. Shiva cuts off Ganesh's head. When the head is cut off, Ganesh lies dead. The mind is unconscious of creation. When Shiva places the elephant head on Ganesh, Ganesh becomes infinitely conscious of the infinite unconscious. Ganesh was the first in creation to become God realized, and he is the same Ancient One who comes down again and again, age after age, as the embodiment of the universal mind. It was Jivatman, Jiv the Holy Ghost, and Shiv Atman, Shiva the Sun, who experienced all aspects of Maya through Sati, Parvati, and Kailash, and who in the end, as the father, becomes the son through the form of Ganesh. Ganesh represents the goal of life, infinite mind. The arrogant and curious boy Ganesh must bear the weight of creation on his own shoulders, represented by the elephant's head, found by Brahma and Vishnu. The elephant's head represents universal mind. It is a huge head placed on the fragile shoulders of a boy. Wearing an elephant's head symbolizes the illusion is distorted. With the impressions existent in human consciousness, the combination of natural and unnatural sanskaras. Living with an elephant's head resting on his torso symbolizes Ganesha's infinite burden, the suffering and agony of man's unnatural sanskaras, which it is his work to wipe out. Ganesha is the favorite of the gods because he can bear it. He can bear infinite suffering. It is a boy who represents the ancient one, Adi Purush. The child's body symbolizes purity of creation. Despite the load of mankind's natural and unnatural sanskaras, symbolized by the elephant head he must wear. He is the favorite one, the one never forgotten, for he bears infinite suffering. So I just wanted to share that with you. I'm not necessarily Hindu, but man, I do appreciate religious texts. I appreciate head nods to different religions, and all of them have beauty. And another, little tidbit about Ganesh is he's so playful. The images of Ganesh is like him eating candy, like riding a mouse, like, so, wearing infinite burden on the top of your shoulders, and still being able to find play is pretty incredible, and is a great segue into healing inner child because play, we don't do enough of it. In my coaching courses, I teach healing inner child because, let's be real, like who hasn't had some sort of wound in childhood? And here's the thing. Even if your parents did like a spectacular job, they are human. They are human. They certainly made mistakes, and there's a lot of outside things that parents can't control, right? Certainly if a parent shows up for you in a present way, do the best they can, sometimes things happen, like car accidents happen, with my mother, like people get sick, external circumstances, people get rich, they get poor. So, it has less to do with your parents here, though, we certainly address that in healing inner child. And it's more to do with how whatever happened to you impacted you and imprinted in you. So in that poem I just read, you heard the word sanskaras, right? So these are these imprints that happen internally, like in your brain, in your body, right? If you combine the mind-body theory, it would be chitta vrittis. So it's like consciousness vibrations. So with healing inner child, our goal is to access your subconscious. So you have access to your subconscious when you're present. And so that is a precursor for this work. So the way my coaching course, the way that I teach it, I start with a clear formula. We go to emotional processing, and we start to from there go a little bit deeper. I show breath techniques. I have people do holotropic breathing, so hum breathing, lots of different techniques to sort of break off the shell and get a little bit deeper. But in my course, I gradually go into more subtle energy type work, because if I started with that, probably people would be a little bit lost. And so I like to give a little popcorn trail. I love popcorn, by the way. I had two little bags of skinny pops. Somebody donated to my studio. I was had lunch and I was like, I want some popcorn. And then I found some popcorn and I was happy. So by doing this, it allows people the chance to start to trust their body gradually and trust the information that is available to them. And most people aren't ready to drop into that right away. So this is just disclaimer. If you just like happened upon this podcast, if you've been doing some inner subtle type work, this podcast might be good for you. If you are just getting into like healing yourself, I would go to the first podcast I did in this series, which is How to Coach Yourself, the Clear Formula. It's really going to serve you better. It's going to allow your brain something to chew on, and it will also like it kind of builds. So if you've been doing healing inner child work, awesome, continue. If not, pause this, go a couple episodes back, and I think it will serve you better. Anyways, let's continue. So to access inner child, we need to be present. So typically what I would do is draw people into a meditative state. Now, there's different ways to do this. I do actually have a healing inner child meditation for free on Insight Timer. It has almost 100,000 downloads. So if you're listening to this, a little bit of cross networking here, you can check out that podcast, that meditation, and listen to it. But finding a way to connect with you. So a great breath technique that you can do to drop in is, I'll sit tall, sit well. And after a full exhale, so your lungs are empty, inhale for 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold for 4. Exhale for 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause for 2. Inhale for 4. Pause for 4. Exhale all the way to 6 and pause for 2. One more inhale, 4. Pause for 4. Exhale all the way out for 6 count and pause for 2. Now this breath, you want to rinse and repeat, meaning I would do probably about 15 rounds of that particular breath. And the extended exhale helps you to tap into parasympathetic nervous system and gain access to your subconscious patterns, right? Once you've done that, dropping into a memory. So what is like a childhood memory that you've had that maybe haunts you? You know, like there's like memes I've seen of like my brain all day. It's like nothing. And then you're trying to go to sleep. And it's like, remember that time in 5th grade when like, you know, the wind blew your skirt up and everybody saw your underpants and you're just like, you know, lying in bed with like your eyes super wide, looking around like, oh God, why? That. If you can grab that, like a moment of shame, embarrassment, or maybe there's even a memory you don't even understand, but for some reason it pops up and it makes you a little uncomfortable. That is material that would be great to do healing inner child work in, because there is something in that snapshot memory that your child didn't process. And that's the purpose of healing inner child work. There's something they didn't understand, something that they didn't have a tool to do, and it is stuck in your body. If it's also, you know, there is a discomfort in your body, a lot of times for me it resides in like the stomach or like just around the solar plexus area. For me, that's where my inner child exists. And to call upon your inner child, you can call forth a memory, and you can also imagine yourself as a child. So if I said, all right, imagine yourself as a child, immediately, what age comes to mind? Now, sometimes it's like a teenager, right? Other times it's like real little. Sometimes it's, you know, like 10, 11, 12. It can be, you know, all over the place. So whatever comes to mind first, I usually take that as your intellect, your sort of like Vijnanamaya kosha, the space of the buddhi, your intellect in your body that is out of the realm of your mind, right? it's speaking to you. It's like right away, like, oh, over here, this is what we need help with. I would try to entertain that and see if you can hook into some feelings that are associated with that memory of like you at that age. Like what happened at that age that stuck with you? And here's the thing too, is when you start breathing and going into this work, sometimes like it's interesting what happens. Like you can go into this space of inner child. And again, I have that meditation on Insight Timer for the full experience. But sometimes you help your child, like you go to them and you sit there and you're present with them during the memory, because a lot of times it's not what happened, but it's that you weren't supported. You felt alone. You felt abandoned in that moment. So you go back into that memory and you can support your inner child. But a lot of times what happens is the child will turn around and help you, right? So you go back in to like heal your wounded child. But a lot of times that child has something special for you as an adult, like an offering. And, you know, I get it. If you're like, this is a little out there. This is not meant to be understood with your like logical mind. Because to the logical mind, to like the data empirical mind, it doesn't make sense. But this exists, like it, you know, and I did an interview with, Tim Goetsch about epigenetics. And so, you know, these patterns exist within us. Like it affects our DNA. A lot of times trauma is inherited. Tim worked with the World Health Organization with some tribes, I think in Nigeria, as far as there was this a gangster that almost became like a dictator that, was just terrible to women. And there was so much trauma that was imprinted on them. And it was like transgenerational. So even if you do not think that you need healing inner child work, trust me, everybody does. Like, and maybe not just for you, but for like your ancestors. Again, I know I sound like one of those weird yoga people, but that's fine. I am one of those weird yoga people. I've evolved. It's just full-blown weird. When you're in that space, being compassionate and asking, you can either ask or maybe you just intuitively know, what did you not get as a child that would have made all the difference? You know, like I coached somebody once that, you know what would have been nice, like a baseball game with my dad, like a game of catch. And so in that memory, he went back and with his younger child and like played a game of catch with him, like just mentally. So it can be something like that. It can be, you know, your handheld. It could be like that you listened to them, you know. So everybody's needs are different. And part of this is accessing your needs. Are you as an adult able to access and name and verbalize your needs? It's hard for me to do that. Like that, you know, I've been doing this work for a while. Like I realized like my deeper needs, like it's, I thought that was buried. I thought that was something you could never get, you know, acknowledged and satisfied because that wasn't, you know, what I grew up with, because my parents didn't have that, you know. So in my relationship with Matt, which is very intuitive and we grow together, like we work on stuff like that. But what was a need that you didn't get fulfilled as a child? And again, this is another reason why your inner child is there to also teach you. Because if there is a need that wasn't met for your inner child, there is a need probably that's not being met for you as an adult. So your inner child is generous. They're sweet, you know, they can be, sorry, depending on what age they are. I will say that if you tap into your teenage inner child, mine is like violent and angry, not at me necessarily, but like at the world. And so when you tap into your inner child, sometimes they're pissed off. I've had people that, you know, sometimes I'll give a visualization of going into a room and opening the door. And a lot of times, or actually with this one particular client, the door remained shut. Like the child wouldn't open the door until like lots and lots of work. And then she cracked open the door. And then it was a very slow process and it took a while, but we got there. So be patient. Like sometimes children need patience, right? They need patience, they need understanding, compassion. Being able to conjure that up for yourself in that sort of like suggestive state, you can change, like kind of unravel these sanskaras, these imprints, these traumas. And that is pretty fucking rad, isn't it? Like, seriously. Tim also has a formula, by the way. We didn't talk about it too much because you have to be careful what we say. It's known as the Great Reset formula, which helps people to process trauma, cure autoimmune diseases. Like, it's pretty incredible. You can use that in combination with like coaching or yoga, but going in and making peace with your inner child, like sitting with them, hearing them, like listening to what they have to say. All these things are great for helping you heal and evolve as a human being. And let's get back to what I segued into, which is play. I don't know about you, but it's very easy as an adult to like not play. Like so many adults are so serious. Like it's just, it's so boring. Why do we do that? So when you tap into your inner child, they have gifts for you. Like maybe it's play, like maybe it's creativity. Maybe there is something that you stuffed away from yourself for so long because, I don't know, you denied yourself of it. Like I'm just tapping into one of my fields. Like I really love speaking and studying Japanese and languages. And for so long I pushed it away because, well, I guess I couldn't connect it to my business. And so I couldn't excuse it as just like a pleasure activity, which is interesting because like other things I'm able to, like yoga and that would connect to my business, and roller derby, that has nothing to do with my business, but it was a physical activity. And so I guess I felt like I had to reserve my mental energy for my business. But here's the kicker, is that by studying Japanese and allowing myself that play, I guess I kind of like activate my brain in other ways. And so I feel like more focused, which like you might be listening to this like, well, yeah, of course, duh. But like, it didn't occur to me. It didn't occur to me. And I think it was, there's probably a childhood fear for me of like, I don't want to have to struggle like my mom did. I don't want to have to be on food stamps. I don't want to have to like live in the ghetto. So yeah, healing inner child work, I think everybody should do. And that's why I do the workshops that I do. That's why I have the meditation out. It's important work. It can be lovey-dovey. It can also be like straight up, like just facing your fears. It can be coaching yourself. It can be, again, accessing your needs. So it can be a mix of all those things. I've even coached people and they went back to their inner child and they're like, I don't really like them. And then the inner child is like, I don't really like you either. So it's not just all like, oh, I found my inner child and I gave it a hug and like now we're happy. That's happens sometimes, but a lot of times it's more complex. I mean, think about children. They're not always sweet. They're not simple. They're complex. They're trying to like figure out their hormones and their bones in their head are growing. Like there's just so much that's going on with them. They're unaware of a lot of things and more aware of other things. So, again, it's good work. It is interesting work. It is something I'm passionate about. It's something I'm good at. And I have a lot of resources for you to tap into besides this podcast. So, and I'm going to, I teach about it in my course, which by the way, my course for coaching is August 20th to 27th. It's 8 days. And it is long days, but they're good days. And we go through all this material and way, way, way more. And I coach you in person and you get like a cool knit, Sangha spiritual community. I mentor you. And then after that, you coach me as your final, like you have to submit audios, and then we have a mastermind, and it's fucking brilliant, and I love it. And I love raising strong leaders. That's what I like to do. It's very satisfying for me. So I hope that you'll come be one of my ducklings. And I think that's all I have to say about inner child. I hope that this podcast was helpful for you. If you have questions about healing inner child, you can email me, Erin@erincoach.com. And I think that's it. All right. Have a fantastic day, and namaste. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to support the podcast and if it's helping you, please consider writing a review. You can go to iTunes or Google Play, go into the search bar and type in Thrive Yoga Fit Transformational Coaching, scroll down, and you can leave a review. This helps other people to find me as well as bumps us up in the search ratings. Also, this podcast is sponsor-free, so that means we don't receive anything for doing it. If you feel so inclined and this podcast is helping to support you and you want to return the favor and help to support any production costs of the podcast, feel free to give a donation to a Venmo link, Thrive Yoga Fit, or PayPal, Erin@erincoach.com. If you don't have the means, don't worry about it. We're not going anywhere. You're all good. But if you would like to give back, you can give back in those ways. Last thing, we have a coaching certification coming up, and it's 7 days of an intensive work, followed by a 3-month mentorship. You will not find another teacher that's more passionate and dedicated than I am to my students and their learning, and not just their learning, but the application and how they show up in their life. If you've been listening to this podcast and it's had a huge impact on your life, just imagine what it would be like to spend 7 intensive days with me and then a 3-month mentorship. You can check that out at thriveyogafit.com/coach-certification. Again, thriveyogafit.com/coach-certification. Thank you so much. Namaste.